Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
I'm with Amar Sinha, India's ambassador to Afghanistan from 2013 to 2016 and currently a member of the National Security Advisory Board. And we are talking about the developments in Afghanistan in the wake of US President Donald Trump's incredible tweets where he called off his secret talks with the Taliban and with the Kabul government. This is Jyoti Malhotra and you're watching Global Print. Mr. Sinha, welcome to The Print. My first question to you is about Donald Trump's amazing tweets on Sunday early morning that India and the rest of the world woke up to, where he cancelled secret talks with the Taliban. What did you make of it?
Well, thank you. My first reaction, of course, was that the truck that was hurtling down towards Afghanistan has been put on emergency brake system. And I think there was a need to take a step back or put a pause to see what exactly the deal is about and what will be the final outcome.
So nobody knew what this deal was. After all, the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, is inviting not just the Taliban to secret talks at Camp David, but also the Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani.
Well, there are two things. The negotiations had gone on for nearly a year. It started last September with Ambassador Khalilzad.
Right. This is Zalmay Khalilzad, the US envoy to the talks with the Taliban.
Absolutely. Okay. And this Camp David idea had come only end of August. So it basically lasted 9 days. And there must be very good reasons, including that to hold Taliban, to sort of host Taliban in the week when 9/11 was attacked, when Masood was killed. Today is his...
In fact, today, September 9th, is the 18th anniversary of the assassination of Ahmad Shah.
It also had very bad optics, I would say. Plus, the other party, which is Taliban here, what exactly have they given? To me, it is not apparent that they have given anything except promises that they will cut deals with international terrorists and that they would not allow territories under their control to be used against US and other countries. Now, what exactly is territories under their control, I fail to understand, especially when they are looking at becoming part of the Afghan government. So I would presume that entire Afghan territory should be part of that government's control.
So two questions, Ambassador. The first is that as a former Indian ambassador to Afghanistan and a country that you keep closely in touch with, were you or was India in the know of what was happening on the ground about these talks between, these secret talks between Trump and the Taliban and Ashraf Ghani flying to Camp David? So that's my first question.
Well, I definitely was not informed, but I am sure the government of India would know, or our embassy in Kabul would know. We have very close working relationship with the Afghan government, so we would know the details. I'm definitely sure about that. Whether President Ghani and the top leadership in Afghanistan knew, well, they had not seen the final draft, as you saw in the media, that even on 2nd of September, when Ambassador Khalilzad visited Kabul, they were just shown the draft agreement, which has been initialed and also shared with Qatar.
And then the piece of paper was taken away from Ashraf Ghani, and he wasn't even allowed to keep that piece of paper.
Yeah, he got an hour's look-in on a document which really determines Afghanistan's fate. So there were a lot of things that were raising serious concerns, both in Afghanistan, understandably, and also in the partner countries, including India.
So for Ashraf Ghani, who barely took a look at this document that Zalmay Khalilzad had in principle initialed with the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, for him to still go for talks to America at Camp David, isn't that a bit odd?
Yes, you see, you have to look at it from his perspective. The entire election process has been put on hold, basically because of these talks and an outcome. Then he was hoping that if Taliban could be sort of convinced to start engaging with the Afghan government, it will be a step forward towards peace. Second, I think he would have come back with some guarantees or assurances on the democratic process going on, which many of the contenders have actually opted out or have not even started their campaign. So I still have doubts whether it will be held on 28th September, but there would have been more clarity on these two tracks on which things are happening. And of course, it would have been a huge historic opportunity when President Trump would have personally intervened to convince Taliban to engage with the Afghan government, which they have not done so.
But Ambassador, what do you think of these talks that Khalilzad, the US envoy, was ramming through with the Taliban, 9 rounds over the last year? Now Trump was calling these guys to Camp David. I mean, were the Americans that desperate to get out?
Obviously, there's a poll commitment. Even before him, there have been presidents who have wanted to get out. And there is this mood that, or what should one say, war fatigue, that it has gone on for 18 years. We need to both reduce and perhaps get out. Draw curtains on, I would think, the global war on terror, and then see how the Afghan situation evolves. So the political need for a deal is immense, and I think Taliban understands it, and that is why they had played hardball, and they have given absolutely nothing except for assurances.
In fact, in the same week that Khalilzad was talking to Ashraf Ghani, there were so many people killed in Kabul. I think more than 40 or 50 people killed, including the one US soldier that Trump talks about.
Yes, Jyoti, you raise a very interesting question. In fact, I have been thinking about it. That was it. What exactly is Taliban trying to achieve? In fact, I have seen that each time the talks have begun, the attacks and their viciousness have also increased. Is it only sort of spiting Americans, or is it something else? And that something else is what worries me. Is it that the Quetta Shura or the Doha office has lost control over the war machinery in Afghanistan?
What does that mean?
That means that we are negotiating and giving in too much to a group which is not in control of the war situation.
But that's interesting, Ambassador. You're saying two things. The Quetta Shura, which is in Quetta in Pakistan, which is supposedly the leadership of the Taliban that is there, led by Habatullah Akhundzada. Are you saying that they don't have control over the Taliban rank and file?
Well, yes, there are divisions. There is this, I think, Mullah Manan. If you see his comments and his press statements, it's very clear that there's deep divisions within Taliban. How independent is Mullah Akhundzada? I am not very sure. Ultimately, he was a creation of the Pakistani state where he lives. One can argue that the Doha group is slightly independent, but they have also been out of action for over 10 years. Mullah Baradar was in jail.
In a Pakistani jail for 8 years or 8 or 9 years.
9 years. Yes. Basically, I know that personally he is very inclined towards reconciliation and peace. The core of the Doha group actually was in Guantanamo. Then they were brought to Quetta. They brought to Doha.
Yes.
And that is where they set up their political office in 2014.
So the Americans are talking to the wrong people.
My own fear is that it just could be that they are talking to the wrong people, and that is why each time the talks happen, there are signals on the ground which seem to be in complete defiance of any rationality. In fact, it was not only the Kabul attack. Before that, if you see, there was a huge attack on Kunduz the day I think Mr. Khalilzad came to Kabul after the so-called the in-principle agreement on the deal. Then, of course, there was attack here. Then there was beheading of the Peace Council head in Gore. So these are signals which, to me, are a sure sign that there is something more that is happening which we don't know.
So what is this something more? Is it that the Pakistani establishment and the Americans are brokering a deal with Pakistan? So is it that the Pakistanis don't have control over the Quetta Shura, or they don't have control, or they do have control over the Taliban rank and file that you just talked
if you
about?
go back in the history of Mujahideen and how it operated and when they fought against Soviets, it is clear that Pakistan had control. But it never unified the groups. It kept the groups separated, and that's why even among Mujahideens there were 7 different groups.
So that was deliberate?
Oh, absolutely, it is deliberate, because Pakistan would not like a group which is independent, which is unified, to take over Afghanistan. For them, it serves their purpose that whatever group is the ruling sort of dispensation in Kabul remains divided, remains locked in a war, and I will not be surprised at all if some of the commanders on the ground which are fighting are directly being handled by ISI and not the Quetta Shura.
What does India do in a situation like this? You are one step removed. The Pakistanis have said that they will even, the Pakistanis have said that access to Afghanistan will be reduced, especially after the Kashmir crisis.
Well, access, I don't know what else they would reduce. Access, there is no access really, there is no trade and transit through Pakistan. So yes, they are posturing. But Pakistan also, I think, is in a state where I think they are trying to overreach. It is not only the physical connect that you have with Afghanistan. India has huge stakes there. There is a huge people-to-people connect, emotional connect. We are seen as a very reliable partner which has not played politics, and I think that is not going to go away just because Pakistan wishes it. In fact, more they wish, more India's status will go up in Afghanistan.
But you were not in favor of Zalmay Khalilzad or the Americans brokering this deal in the way that it was being done?
No. Let me put it this way, that of course I am totally for a deal. And I also realize that Americans have the biggest stakes there. No, they not only fund the economy, they fund the military. Right. They are really directing or helping Afghanistan conduct this war. So they have huge stakes and they are the prime stakeholders. But there is another part of the equation where Pakistan is the other actor. Now, if Americans decide to remove themselves from one part of the equation, I think it is incumbent that they balance this equation and get Pakistan out of the scene and let the intra-Afghan process proceed in a manner that would actually lead to peace. Afghans, whether it is Taliban, non-Taliban, will hate Pakistani domination of Afghan polity.
But if all hell breaks loose now, which is what seems likely, do you think that India should perhaps help the Afghans a bit more, whether it's in terms of political or even military help that they've been asking for some time?
No, absolutely. We should. We should stand behind our friends. We should stand behind the modern and liberal Afghanistan, which is looking for towards a democratic polity, because that is the only way of choosing. And you also know Afghan society, every election result gets disputed. So it's not that a deal is announced that there will be peace. Ultimately, the two warring factions will have to sit together and both will have to give. And what is the critical test for Taliban, in my mind, if they are serious about this, they have to stop killing Afghans. And if their promise to Americans is true that they will help fight terrorism, there is enough. They should be actually, I have not seen any report of Taliban actively engaging the ISIS and trying to drive them out of the country which they eventually hope to rule.
So should India engage much more with the Afghans as well as with the Americans and tell them, in a sense, that this is the way forward?
Yes, I think a strong case has been made even by Ambassador Mukhopadhyay, who was my predecessor, in an op-ed. Yes, there is always, and I think India remains engaged at different levels. Our embassy is very, very active. We will have to think what are the other ways of engaging and assuring Afghanistan that India stands true to its old policy of what we used to call no exit policy. And that we will stand with them.
But does that mean also talking to the Taliban?
Eventually, yes. If Taliban starts talking to Afghan people and Afghan government, we should have no hesitation in talking to them. But as long as they are a proxy and fighting Afghan government, I don't think there is any gain in engaging them.
Ambassador Amar Sinha, thank you so much for speaking to ThePrint. Afghanistan is at a crossroads once again. A new great game is on the horizon. This is Jyoti Malhotra. You're watching Global Print. Please continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's live and buzzing.